What's going on, guys? I'm back with a brand new series review for you guys, and I'm doing season 2 of Invincible, starring Seth Rogen, Jason Mount Zuckus. Oh, it's gotta be those names. It's gotta be one of those names that pop up, huh? And Gillian Jacobs. First of all, I have to give honor to the one and only, the great J.K. Simmons. He is a national treasure. We've all realized that by now, upon him taking the role of voice acting for Nolan in this series, obviously, and just owning that. So with that said, I have to talk about the roles that made this man stand out as J.K. Simmons, the national treasure that he is. Because in 1997, Oz came out. Now, for you young people who don't know what I'm talking about, obviously, Oz was a very gritty, almost too honest show about prison. It showed a lot of things that we didn't want to know at a young age. And I found out visually not really being ready mentally for what I was going to see on that show. At the same time, it was a very good show, and there were some outstanding characters within the show, and one of the best ones, was J.K. Simmons as the lead Aryan of the prison. He was the Aryan leader. Okay, so of course he was not a very great person off the back. And this is how I was introduced to J.K. Simmons as an actor. So immediately, just because he did such a good job, very believable job, I did not like this actor from the start. Okay? And not realize this is just acting. He's just doing a role. Hopefully. No, I'm not going to do that to him. I'm not going to do that to the man. We know the man has done nothing through all these years that he's lived and been an actor. He has done nothing to show that he is nowhere near the same person that was in Oz. Okay, but that's how good of an actor he is off the start. Then in 2002, Spider-Man came out. Okay. Now, of course, we know where we're going with this one. He played the boss. We all know who that is. The guy who told Spider-Man, or Peter Parker, what pictures he wants him to take. Okay, and he always gave Peter Parker a hard time. And it's just, after he did that role, we knew nobody else could play this role. No one else could play this. We didn't want to see anybody else even take a stab at this. He did it so perfectly, flawlessly in that role. Okay, and I cannot, for the love of me, think of this man's name right now. It will come on the screen. I should be ashamed of myself, because he is a Spider-Man icon. And in the whole Spider universe, he's the Spider-Man icon. Okay, and J.K. Simmons embodied that role. When we think of this person, we think of J.K. Simmons immediately. No one else can do this. If they had to recast this character, it would not work. It would not work. It's that good. Okay. In 2009, Extract came out. Now, not a lot of people know about this movie. Only you comedy heads who like Beavis and Butthead movies, or the guy who created Beavis and Butthead, Mike Judge. If you watch a lot of his movies, or the few that he has, then you know about this. Okay, Extract, a very messed up movie about how life could really be. Okay, and JK played the boss. Once again, they love putting him as the boss in everything he does, right? Seems like it. And he's not a very good boss in this movie. But what it proved is that J.K. Simmons can do comedy. He can most definitely make you laugh if he wanted to. He made us laugh as the other role in Spider-Man, but that was not intentional. In this one, it was very intentional. And he is a little too good at playing that careless boss who really just didn't care about any of his employees. He didn't know any of their names. He called them Dinkus and Doofus and all this other stuff, never their real names. And that just alone was so hilarious to me. It made me laugh. Because there are bosses like that. There are people like that, period. Not even matter about the rank or where you are above whoever. There are people who just will never get your name right or address you by your name because they've already forgotten your name. Okay, they're not really invested in you. All right. Then in 2014, Whiplash came out. Now, I'm going to be honest with you. I've never seen this movie. I've heard about it so many times, multiple times throughout the years, how good it was. And I never had an interest or cared, actually, until I watched a video on YouTube, the trailer, or not the trailer, but just like scenes that his character was in. He's one of the main characters besides the other guy. Okay, and this was a horrible person. He just said stuff that was just gut-wrenching towards his band students. It's just crazy. It's almost humorous. Don't look at me like that. Don't look at me like I'm a terrible person. Okay, I could decide between terrible and horrible there. But yes, it was humorous, and it made me laugh. The things he said, even though they are very, very bad things you should not say to your band students to get them motivated. So now I have to see this movie because he played the hell out of his role. He played the hell out of that band teacher. I'm wondering, is this a true story? Doing my research immediately. Please don't make it be a true story. Please. Then, in 2021, of course, he took on the role as Nolan in Invincible. And he immediately captured the vision that we all could imagine how Nolan would sound and act. He captured all that. And honestly, I wasn't even reading the Invincible comic books before the show came out. So I had to get into it after the show came out. It is what it is. But reading the comic books and then watching the show, I could see where someone was like, J.K. Simmons really was the guy that was meant for this role. And they probably didn't know at the time reading the comic books, but he was the one. He was the right choice for Nolan on the Invincible. Okay, so he also embodied that role. And now we have season 2 of Invincible. And my question is, will J.K. Simmons continue to make Nolan one of the most breakout characters in an animated series ever? All right, we're about to find out. Let's go. Invincible season 2. For those who don't know, for those who aren't aware, do I even have to say a lot about whether you're aware of this or not? If you're here, you're aware. If you're here, you're aware. If you're not aware, you did some bad things on Earth and you had to fly to another planet and, you lost total connection with Earth. That's the only reason you don't know. Possibly. Okay. Other than that, don't do this. Don't do this. Don't play this game. Penalized immediately. Invincible season 2. It's pretty much like I'm always gonna say, coming off of season 1. He just finished pummeling his own son into a mountain. All right, repeatedly, and then he decides not to make that kill shot, and he flies off into another planet, or just roaming around the solar system, deciding what he must do with his life. And then he is all of a sudden rescued by a ship of praying mantis looking people. Okay, and that goes that way. Meanwhile, Mark is cleaning up the city, or what him and his dad did to that city on the last season. Okay, and he's just trying to figure out what just happened. What the hell just happened? What's up with his life? What's he gonna do now? And a lot of the other characters are going through their things and their trials and their tribulations. Okay, and Mark just doesn't know what to do from that line on. He's having this internal battle with himself, pretty much. And he's called out into space one more time by one of those bug people. And little to behold, when he gets to the space, there he is, Father of the Year. Good old Nolan. Good old Nolan's back. And Mark is not knowing what to do. He is so angry. Where is this gonna go? What could he possibly want from Mark now? Leave Mark alone. That's what's going through Mark's head. And that's pretty much the premise from there on throughout that season, with other things, other characters popping up, of course. Positives. I enjoyed the self-awareness and the humor for this season 2. Okay, there was a part on the show where they went to a Comic-Con or something like that, and they made fun of how long it takes to do the animation, and that sometimes animation might be, changed up because of cost, and it's expensive to do this and that. So they take the cheap way out, and they make scenes where you can't see their mouths moving, so they can totally play around with that scene, or have a still scene of a crowd of people where it's really just a still scene. No one's really moving, but you hear voices. All the other stuff, just to kind of poke fun at the fact that, yeah, they knew that they did a wild thing by stopping in the middle of this season and then making you wait for the rest of the season. They knew what they did. They know what they did, but they don't care. You still came back to watch it. And that's the same thing I'm saying. I was never upset about that. I understood. I just couldn't wait for it to continue again. Okay, so I never had an issue with this. Other people did, which is it's hilarious to me. Another positive. Mark's descent into manhood. Let me explain what I'm talking about here. I think, and I totally believe that becoming a man or a woman to Viltrumites is when you make your first murder, your first kill, your first, erase. And yeah, it's not the other thing, which that could be something too. Spreading your seed could be the other thing, of course. But I think they really are concerned about you unaliving someone. Okay. And Mark, throughout this series, has been trying to hold himself back and compose himself and not unalive someone. He always beats someone to their unconscious, or knocks someone out, or restrains them, or whatever he has to do, not to go to this violent level. But as you go deep into the series, and Mark starts to get all this weight on his conscience, and all this other bad stuff starts happening to Mark, and he just can't take it. There's a scene towards the end of the series, of the season, I'm sorry, where someone comes back and they're not happy and they want revenge. Okay, so they're making Mark go through it, And they push Mark to the point where Mark becomes a man. Now, I'm not saying a lot of detail because that's my way of not spoiling what's going to happen. Mark becomes a man. But if you haven't seen the end of this yet, I don't know why, you need to see that to know what's up. But yeah, he becomes a man. And I like that that's probably what their idea of that is. Obviously. Because his dad has a whole speech with him about you can't hesitate when you fight. Stop holding back. Stop being stop being that, all right? Like, really fight when you fight, bro. Another positive. The arrival of Anissa. If you don't know who Anissa is, she is very popular in the comics and in the media right now for what she does later on. I'm not going to mention what she does later on, of course, for people who have not read the comics. But she's very important and a very controversial character at that. So when she showed up, oh, I got chills. She showed up while Mark and Amber were on a date. Okay? Not caring what they were doing, not being considerate or nothing like that, of course. Put her hand on the back of Amber's neck and probably didn't even put any force on that squeeze. But Amber said she could feel the pressure. She felt it. She couldn't move when she flew off. She told Mark, I need you to meet me in the sky immediately, please. And Mark was going to refuse, but he didn't, smartly. And, it got crazy from there. And it was a good fight, but Anissa handled Mark. She handled him. It's not a surprise. He's always getting handled. So she handled him, and Mark refused to get crazy with her like that, even though he knew he wanted to. And, that happened. All right, and so he agreed that he would listen and he would do the deal with them if you just leave the planet now, okay, don't harm anybody. And that happened, okay. And that was a scene that we were all waiting for, kind of, but we know there's more to come with Anissa. Keep your eye out if you don't know, because you'll know pretty soon, or maybe in a few seasons or whatever. All right, another positive, or last positive. Invincible's rendition of the Red Wedding. If you've all seen Game of Thrones, you know what I'm talking about. If you haven't, go back and watch that. Pull it up, whatever you have to do. It's crazy. Okay, just warning you right now. Very brutal. What I'm talking about is when half of the team of the new Guardians of the Globe are left on Earth while Mark is with the other half of the team to go to space, which is the Earth team is led by Rexplode, of all people. Just keep that in mind. And the good old Snake League, the Lizard League, is out to do some damage and cause some trouble. Okay, and they just happen to ambush or come, or they're called to come stop this. So they're all running over there to make this stop. And poor Rexplode and the rest of the half of the team had no idea what they were in for. And I'm not going to say anything from there. Just think of Red Wedding. I'm not going to say exactly what might have happened to who or whatever, but it gets a little insane. I'm underplaying it. I'm really underplaying that scene. Okay, really am. Negatives. There was more dialogue than action throughout a majority of the show, of season 2. And I think that's what irritated a lot of people, besides it cutting off in the middle of the season and coming back later on. A lot of talking. Not a lot of action until like later on. Not really. There was some action before the cutoff that was cool, that was all right. I was cool with that. A little Viltrumite battle on Thraxon. That was cool. But not what we were looking for. Not what I was looking for. Okay, so but even though I understand sometimes you need a little dialogue to set the story up for something bigger, but at the same time, come on. You know what we're looking for. Get to it. It got to it, most definitely. It got to it. But then, there was that episode where Mark and Amber were trying to figure out where they were going with their relationship, and I did not give a rat's ass about that at all. It seemed like the entire episode was about that, man. I don't care about their relationship. I'm not gonna say why, because I'm waiting for something else to happen, but I can't say what else I want to happen because I'll spoil it for people who have not read the comic books. But that's kind of saying why, but not really. All right, just I don't care about that. I don't care about Mark and Amber's situation. Let's get it to the other side of that. All right. Negative. Another negative. Mark's not a good listener. Mark is not a good listener. He is very hard-headed. Okay? I remember there was another scene where someone was trying to make Mark stop, and Mark didn't want to stop. I can't remember exactly what that scene was. It was a villain he was fighting, or somebody he was fighting, and they told Mark to hold. Oh no! It was when they were trying to get him back out to Thraxon, and he wouldn't stop whooping that bug's ass. He wouldn't stop pummeling this dude. And he was trying to tell him, hey, call me, man. I got something to tell you. Please stop whooping my ass. I got something to tell you. And Mark wouldn't stop. And he's done this a couple of times. He's not a good listener, and it's going to be his downfall. I'm not saying that's what's going to happen. I'm just saying I feel like that would be his downfall, not being a good listener. Your dad's a better listener than you, bro. You're very hard-headed. You're very hard-headed, and that makes me dislike his character even more, besides what is already done. Another negative. The mom cries a lot. Now, I understand that she's going through some things because of what happened in season 1. That you can't find a lot of people who have had a superhero husband and then they turn out not to be that super of a hero, and they're really a villain, and so they start whooping their son's butt and all over the world, and yeah. Not everybody goes through that every day, so I understand that, but do we need to see every scene where she has a breakdown and cries? Do we have to see every scene? Because it gets to nothing. It leads to nothing but her crying. And her son coming home and comforting her and blah, blah, blah. Yeah. We don't need to see multiple scenes of that. I'm just letting you know that right now, writers. Her struggle is over. It's done. We've seen it. Move on. Last negative. Immortal put too much emotion into his despair for Kate. Not gonna say what despair I'm talking about, but let's just say he loved her a lot more than I think he should really love her. Kate's a horrible person. She slept with her friend's dude or teammate or whatever. You're not a good person, Kate. Okay, I'm just going to say this right now. Kate's a horrible person. She's not something worth crying about at all. But with that, I have to give this an I cool. Yes, I'm giving it an I cool because Not because it got cut off, because it just it doesn't have the same oomph as season 1, and that's something they can't help. They're just going by what the comic books are mostly. We'll see by season 3 if that's going to go back up. Like, share, subscribe.